My name is Xiaowen Zhu. I'm the director of EC Contemporary in Manchester, the UK. We're the UK's only nonprofit art center specializing in presenting and platforming artists and art practices that identify with and are informed by East and Southeast Asian cultural backgrounds. Today, our event is co-hosted by the KCC UK and EC Contemporary, which is part of the exhibition Jinjoon Lee Audible Garden at the Korean Cultural Center in London. We're very pleased to be joined by Dr. Jinjoon Lee, who will be giving a talk about his artistic practice in relation to his current solo exhibition at the Korean Cultural Center. And next, I'm going to just read two short biographies of our two distinguished guests. Dr. Jinjoon Lee, born in Masan, Korea, graduated from Seoul National University with a BBA in business and a BFA and MFA in sculpture. He later earned an MA degree in the moving image pathway of sculpture from the Royal College of Art. Subsequently, he pursued a doctorate in fine art from the Ruskin School and St. Hugh's College, University of Oxford. Lee has served as a guest artist at the ZKM Center for Art and Media in Karlsruhe, Germany, and is currently a professor at KAIST, Korea Advanced Institute of Science and Technology. We also have a guest speaker with us today, Professor Xiang Biao, who will be joining Jinjoon in conversation. Xiang Biao is the director of the Max Planck Institute for Social Anthropology in Germany since 2020, and he was a professor of social anthropology at the University of Oxford before that. Xiang's research focuses on various types of migration, internal and international, unskilled and highly skilled, immigration and return migration, as well as the places and the people left behind in China, India, and other parts of Asia. Xiang is the recipient of the 2008 Anthropology Leeds Prize for his book Global Body Shopping and the 2012 William L. Holland Prize for his article Predatory Princess. His 2000 Chinese book 跨越边界的社区, published in English as Transcending Boundaries in 2005, was reprinted in 2018 as a contemporary classic. His book 把自己作为方法, Self as Method, co-authored with Wu Qi, was ranked the most impactful book of 2020. His work has been translated into Japanese, French, Korean, Spanish, German, and Italian. Following the conversation, there will be a chance to address any questions from our audiences. So please feel free to drop in your questions throughout the artist talk and the conversation in our Q&A box anytime. So without further ado, now I will hand over to Jinjoon for his artist talk.
Well, I'm very happy to present my artwork and my thought at this time. It's very grateful for this special inviting from ESEA, KCC UK as well. I'd like to start from my own personal experience as childhood, especially talking about my hometown, Masan, Korea. Well, I'd like to start with the stories about my childhood, neighborhood, and the mountain where I grew up by reflecting on the history and geographical context of the place. I believe I can provide a comprehensive understanding of the background of my artworks. I was born in a city called Masan. The city has a story that in the 13th century, when the Mongols were preparing for their expedition to Japan, it was a place where horses were raised and watered. Even today, the Mongol well, as known as the Mongol Zhang, is well preserved. It's a small coastal city located at the southern tip of the Korean peninsula, famous for its clear water and air. And it's very well known as the poet's village, Masan. Historically, the Mongols' plan to invade Japan ended up failure due to the typhoon known as the Simpun kamikaze. Many might recall the term kamikaze as a special unit of Japanese pilots who attacked Pearl Harbor during the Second World War. I was born in 1974, and in my hometown, there was a mountain called Masan, the mountain of dragon and horse. This picture shows the mountain. I graduated from the elementary school and the middle school here. The red dot A is it was the primary school the site, and the B was my middle school the site, and the C was my father's and my uncle's the primary school area. So my parents and my childhood entirely related to the mountain here in the. Can you see that the green color, the mountain dot here? It was I was the I nowadays it looks like a large green mountain, but during the 1970s when I was childhood, it looked completely barren, resembling mound of the red soil. The rainy days were especially concerning, as the hill seemed like it might bury the houses below in the landside. And from the small garden at my house, as I drank milk and looked up that mountain against the blue sky, the red hill resembled the red tongue, almost as if it could swallow our house and the neighbors at any moment. And every chance they got, my family and the neighbors would go up to the mountain to plant trees. There was even designated tree planting day initiated by the government. Many of the trees you see in the current picture were planted by me. Whenever I look at this mountain now, I feel a peculiar sense of pride. Even as a tiny kid back then, I felt a sense of guardianship of the mountain. A very vivid memory planting those tiny spelling remains. This satellite image shows mountains had become densely wooded over 4 or 5 decades. It's like an island in the middle of the city. Can you see the industrial area beside it? It was the Masan export free zone, Korea's largest industrial complex, which started in 1973, 1 year before my birth. You can imagine the change. This quiet, peaceful village with the clean air and water underwent since around the time I was born. I mentioned I was born in 1974, the year when the first lady of South Korea was assassinated by North Korean agent. The incident was quite shocking, especially to my mother, who was pregnant with me at the time. I was born 2 months after this incident. It was time of the significant change in Korean society in many ways. Earlier, I mentioned the drinking milk and looking at the mountain and the sky. The 1970s marked a period when the dairy industry in Korea began to flourish. Thus, my generation can be considered the first in Korea to grow up drinking industrialized animal milk. Interestingly, I have a severe illness. I was infected with tuberculosis in my first year and have been suffering from asthma ever since. It might be interesting to imagine a small, stray child drinking proceeded cow's milk in the yard, looking up at factory chimneys and wondering whether the smoke is from the factories or just cloud, or while gazing at the red mountain beneath. Earlier, I mentioned Masan is very famous for its clear water and the air. It's also called the city of poets, ironically. Related to tuberculosis, the clean air and water led to the establishment of national hospitals for tuberculosis patients in Korea. Consequently, many artists, especially poets, were afflicted with the disease gathered in Masan at the time when there were no effective treatment for tuberculosis. Clean air and water were considered the best remedies. That's why the sanatoriums and the healing centers were established in beautiful Masan. It is said that many children back then died from tuberculosis, a disease often associated with poverty and malnutrition at the era. Naturally, there were many poets in the neighborhood. Some were quite famous, and the high school I graduated from, Masan High School, produced renowned poets like Biao and Jinjoon Lee. The most celebrated poet in Korean textbooks. I can't deny being fascinated by the poetic compression and symbolism since my childhood. These elements are evident in my current works. I will talk, this is his wife. The picture is quite blurred, but in the middle of the hair, there is a wife as well. I start to talk about more my own artwork exhibiting in my solo show in London. The title was The Audible Garden. The Audible Garden, upon you enter the exhibitions area, you first encounter this wall painting. At first glance, it might remind you of ancient landscape paintings, or perhaps it appears like a mechanically designed old art mural. Upon closer inspection, you will notice that the dots in the wall are rather crudely drawn. From afar, the mural may seem orderly, resembling the mechanistic nature of a machine-driven society. However, each dot is distinctly unique. It reflects my habit of observing both the whole and individual parts, and parallels the way I've always intertwined my personal stories with the stories of our era. What's unique about this mural is that it serves as actually musical score. It represents 88 MIDI notes of a piano, with each dot size indicating the intensity of the play. Those familiar with music might even imagine or hear the sound just by looking at this audible garden, because it's like a symbolic score. And actually, there is some resonating sound. The space itself resonates with overlapping sounds. The hanging garden. There are 12 super louder directional speakers, each emitting different sounds at randomly. These speakers direct sound in just one direction, resulting in a on and off repetition of 12 sounds. The subtle air change caused by visitors influenced the mobile artwork, altering the direction of the sound. Especially, this directional sound gets reflected off ceiling, walls, and the floors, making it hard to pinpoint the origin. Sound of children's laughter, birds, water, wind, cricket, and the occasional ambulance siren blurs the line between reality and artwork, intertwining my personal memories with the visitors. There is also the diary record as well. As I mentioned, the wall painting serves as a musical score, which is read using 31 plus discs and a turntable attached to the camera sensor. These discs, like a diary, contain my own memories from the summer of 2003 in Daejeon, where I'm now working in South Korea. It showcases how personal memories are stored, contained, played and reprinted by machine like AI. There is also another the two mountain, the carpets installation. We return to the mountain, specifically Yongma-san mountain, Yongma Dragon Horse Mountain. I created a carpet based on satellite image of the Yongma Mountain with a green removed. Beside it is a painting inspired by Zhejiang's The Landscape of Mont Saint Victor, also turned into the carpet after removing the color of the green. The visitors can use their own lighting to appreciate the artwork, discovering their own mountains from mine. There is black milk. It was casted by the black ink, the calligraphy sumi ink. And there is also one branch of the plant branch as well. It's not a real one, it's fake one. So it can be dyed at all. Lastly, maybe I should talk about the two-channel video artwork. It was called like a manufactured nature, the era Obongdo. Era Obongdo means I used to actually I currently actually is exhibited at the esea. It's a sort of manipulated nature video artwork. There's two-channel piece titled Era Obongdo and also manufactured nature, which refers to screen painting from the Joseon Dynasty, era Obongdo, which means the sun and the wall and the mountain peaks. It represents the universe view of the Joseon era. Interestingly, it was believed to be complete only when the king sat in front of it. So the screen, the painting can be finalized, can be completed by this sort of the king's engagement. I used AI, the deep learning the programs to create this artwork based on data trained on natural landscape data set. StyGAN, the program, showcases what AI perceives as nature. While we can conceptually define nature, our individual experience with it are unique and very hard to categorize. The boundary between nature and artificiality become blurred. The notion of green is often synonymously used with nature, illustrating our conceptual understanding. In the sea of fabricating nature images, we are left wondering what's real, what's not. Technologies like AI not only entertain us, but also isolated us in our personal fantasies. This brief explanation encapsulates my recent solo show, and thank you very much for your attention as well.
Thank you, Jinjoon. That was a wonderful presentation. I think it set us up very well, you know, to further understand the context. And I especially appreciate at the beginning the slideshows about your hometown. Definitely, you know, enriches my knowledge of Masan. I have to say I have not, you know, previously encountered, you know, your hometown, but it's a wonderful way to get to know about the new place, and hopefully in the near future I'll get to visit. Yeah, I was curious, maybe if there's any kind of initial feedback and thoughts from Professor Xiang Biao, because I know that you have been acquainted of Jinjoon's practice maybe since a couple of years ago, and now, you know, even though digitally, but kind of get a glimpse of his most recent solo exhibition in the UK. Is there a kind of any immediate response you would like to share with us?
Oh, I mean, the artwork, Jinjoon's artwork and the thought, as usual, as always, really trigger flood thought in my mind. First of all, I would like to say that I feel that I'm part of the art project already. I met Jinjoon in the dining hall. No, in the first time was in the principal's lodge. It's the living room in the principal's lodge of St. Hugh's College in Oxford, and then we met regularly in the dining hall of St. Hugh's College in Oxford. So therefore, our connection was very physical and face-to-face. So we had lots of conversation then. And now, after I think 5 or 6 years, and by listening to his presentation on this art project that started with his memory of his childhood place, when I am my own childhood home place. I'm now right now in my parents' home in Wenzhou City, southeast China, which I'm visiting the first time for the last 4 years. Then we are now mediated through technology, and we hear each other well, but the sound and the vision is all mediated through digital technology. So very different from how we communicated before. So I thought that it's about the memory and how we perceive memory, and therefore how we perceive our living surrounding and etc. It's a very so this is why I said I feel I'm almost a part in this Jinjoon's artwork, especially related to question of memory and technology. So if I may, can I start by asking 2 questions, and Jinjoon can just respond in whichever way you feel suitable. Number 1, I read from your probably written introduction somewhere, you said you found the figure of scholar officials, or the Chinese term would be the gentry, the traditional scholar officials, somehow quite close to your thinking, your worldview. I'm very curious to know in what ways you feel that your artistic thinking is similar to the traditional figure of scholar officials. And the second question is, when this autoethnographic approach, as you put it, became a method that speak to yourself, and is a matter of age, or is something specific event? Suddenly you discover, by bringing memory into certain artistic expression, have a special meaning to you. And as a result of that, as a result of adopting your autoethnographic approach, you feel that you have reached to a new stage of artistic work? Put differently, what impacts does this autoethnographic approach has on you?
Well, thank you for this important question. Maybe I can say it as the first question. Maybe you guys know about literati, the scholar, and also the government officers in the East Asian the society. They are very they are intelligent scholar who studied.
Jinjoon, I think you're muted. Somehow I can't hear you anymore.
Hello.
We can't hear you, Jinjoon.
Is it right?
Yeah, I think it's good on our side. I think if you
right, can I continue?
Yeah, carry on.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, as you know that there is the tradition about scholars like literati. They were the part of the officers in the government, and also philosophers who studied a lot of the philosophical textbooks in their whole ages. And also they were the artists as well, who made the painting, even sculpture, and also the musician who played a very traditional instrument in their period. I feel that the artwork, the outcome by them is the painting, for example, is not just like for the decoration who make somebody pleased. It's more than just the decoration. It's like about the philosophical understanding to the nature, the landscape, to the world as well by making the painting itself. Traditionally, they conserved the scrolls instead of just putting out on the wall. They just conserved the scrolls in the shelves, and then when some guests came to visit their houses, they really played to show it off respectively, which means that invited them to travel together to the mountain or such a landscape by imagining, by thinking each other together. So, according to the literary tradition, the piece of artwork is not just like the just like the painting itself. It's about the methodology to perceive the world, how we can communicate our thought, not using word itself. While I was studying the old ancient painting, what I thought was it's about the way to see the outward, how they perceive the world, not just focusing on their own things. They actually use the multiple perspectives at the same time. To conserve, to perceive the world in many different ways simultaneously. Also, by using their imagination, they was able to bring us to the utopian vision as well. And also, I felt that we are not just separated entity from the nature itself. Always, we will belong to the nature, the landscape as well. So I feel the literary tradition who studied philosophy and also sometimes participate in the government officers, also societies as a leader. From the time, they will try to communicate the others by using their instrument, music instrument, also by painting in many ways, the different layers, different the types of the communication, I feel. Maybe I can just go to the second question about the autoethnographical approach to my artwork. How I can be the artist who is inspired by my own personal childhood or personal experience, and also how can I make some impact on the new staging as well by using this anthropological the methodology. I feel that there are so many big conceptual the agendas and like climate crisis or the genders issues and also ideologies. There's such a big 10 themes are overwhelming always to us. But between the big names of such a titles, there's some empty or vacant spaces where we were closely located, which means, for example, like a poem, there is two words like A and B. In between there's empty space where we can make a connection by using our own personal experience or my personal understanding. Such a connection between two biggest the outstanding topics. Actually, as an artist, I really try to make a bridge between the personal my own experience and also the large scale the perceptions to the world as well. So also a critical approach to my own personal memory, also the study to my neighbors, even my hometown or my friends, such a things, helped me resonate to bring me to go further the next stage as well. But based on artist, I feel that I'm not sure. Whenever I just made my artwork, I'm not sure like how it addressed such an important question to the audience. Rather, I just want to focus on my own question to myself. How I started the question, how it can be inspired from my own personal memories. At least I feel that this is the most honest way to start to make the first step to make another one. Afterward, by using by the exhibitions or by the public speech, such as things, it can be located in the public era, public sphere. It will be quite different from what I thought at first time, but by using such a methodology, there's an ethnographical approach to my own personal things to make my artwork is going to make a very confirmed bridge between my own specifically embodied experience to the blood, the conceptual world as well. That's what I want to say today.
Thank you so much, Jinjoon, and thank you, Professor Xiang, for asking those two intriguing questions. When after I've visited your exhibition in London, actually a few weeks ago, really enjoying it. And then now we have the pleasure of showing the dual channel installation at EC Contemporary. And then also after hearing your artist talk, I feel like, your practice and also your knowledge really sort of cover a wide spectrum, right? Because coming from like a more personal perspective, such as your childhood memory, and also the introduction of your hometown, both in terms of its location, cultural history, but also social economic background, and also highlighting a few important events, right? Since you were born, and which political events that really made strong impression on you when you grew up. And then also to kind of the form and aesthetics of your artistic practice, which we see very prominently through your exhibition. I feel like there's this kind of like push and pull, right? Like kind of between the very rich context and content, and then very often a minimalistic and a simplistic aesthetic presentation, which of course appears very conceptual as well. So I was kind of wondering, I guess the first question actually is a quite specific question, because I remember this this painting or like this 2D work on the wall of the mountain, right? I think you also showed it in your presentation. So it reminds me of like, it seems to me that topography and the mapping is very important, maybe for your understanding of your environment and how you make sense of your existence in relation to the world. But then that particular piece, without lighting, or without external aid, it appears very dark. We don't really know what we're looking at, but only through like a spotlight, then we get to investigate. Actually, there are many details and very intricate details, very intriguing details in this work. Can you talk a bit more about that? And also, what's the consideration of presenting such a work almost kind of at the end of the exhibition? Is it meant to be sort of like an indication or like a clue of some sort?
Well, yes, the carpet. Without using the torch or the lighting from the phone, it's very hard to see what actually it has been in the carpet, dark carpet. Also, without such an explanation, like erasing green color of the painting or pictures, well, it's very hard to understand why it looks like just dark. This carpet is on the wall. Well, I try to talk about to explore such a darkness by using our personal technological tool like a torch or the mobile phone as well, which means the mountain on the carpet. The one of that is my own personal memory of the Masan, the Dragon Horse Mountain, And the other is the Sejan work, which is towards the mountain as well. The memory, what I got, also similar to the Sejan as well, is entirely personal things. Also, it can be the same as well. It cannot be the same. It always has been changed. And also, whenever I visit the mountain, there is life and also death and also decay. As it had always some change in the mountain as well. But conceptually, I feel that I have connected with that mountain. I perceived that images from my childhood. It looks like just a very confirmed the figure of the red, the tongue. Now it's been changed to the green. So by erasing the green color, I try to ask the audience to find their own personal memories on the mountain, the carpet. Like by checking the detail of the carpet surface, this carpet surface can be really touchable. By attempting to touch, they look at the surface of the carpet or darkness, just by using torch. They have some pleasure to look for what it is, and such an engagement is quite pleasurable. At the same time, they could find out that it's sort of the shape of the mountain as well. So such that the different engagement and also participation to perceive, to appreciate the artwork is also what one of my intentions, where I invite the people to the mountain itself, conceptually and also physically. And also Sejan, the entomologist Melly Ponty, mentioned that Sejan's work is also like phenomenologically, it's not the same. So this guy personal memory, how it can be, the personal memory can be connected with the conceptual approach to the nature itself or landscape. It is sort of the trigger point to think about how we can see our urban landscape by using our mobile phones many times. Unless we use the mobile phone, it's very hard to make communication with each other. Even, for example, also it's very hard to discern which is actually real and fake. For example, the sunrise and sunset images. Maybe a lot of people had a chance to see the sunrise and sunset physically with their own memories, realities. But at the same time, how many times it has been painted by the images of the media itself, by the movie, by the cinema, by the photograph, and by the image on the mobile phone of the sunrise and the sunset, the landscape. Such a beautiful landscape has been also contained in our mind as well. It's very hard to see what the nature was, how the beautiful the landscape of sunlight and sunset was. We just very complicatedly connected with such a perception, the images which has been manipulated by the media itself, and also my own personal memories. I just wanted to bring such the important device, the tool, the mobile phone itself, how we can see the world by using this torch, this device. That's one of the trigger points to talk about this conversation. Thank you very much for this question.
Thank you, Jinjoon, for the elaboration. I also noticed that participation plays a crucial role in your consideration of the sort of the execution of the artwork. So in a way, we see a quite clear conceptual process, and then once it's realized in the gallery space, almost every work has a bit of a participatory element, or at least opportunities. Would you like to talk a bit about that? How important, because for some artists, they need the audience, but they kind of don't care about the audience when they make the work. But I feel for you, it's a different approach. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, entirely agree with that. But I didn't want to teach, or I want to direct the audience to take part in my show. Instead, very softly, very softly, very kindly, just I invited them to engage in the artwork. For example, the mobile, the moving, the sound, the installation. Without notice, the movement can be entirely influenced by the participation itself. When the audience or the visitors came to the space, the area of the space can be changed. And then the mobile, the hanging garden is moving around to different directions. So such an engagement was an entirely important part of my artwork as well. And also for example, the turntable, if somebody want to change that disc to listen the different sound from the installation on the wall, they could ask the donator or the docent or the curators to change it. And then they could take part in the exhibition's installation as well. Such a thing is, I feel, maybe I saw that, I show you that the era of Bondo, the painting, the sun and the moon and the five summits of the mountains. Very interestingly, conceptually, that painting has been finalized, has been finished by the king's participation, while king is sitting on in front of the wall painting. Then that installation is really the perfect. That's a conceptual approach to the painting. So in the media artwork, I feel that the engagement and the participation is a very essential part of to make artwork perfectly finalized. So as an artist, I just suggested a situation and the condition where the visitors can be invited, can be put on that space. So it may be quite different from the white cube. The white cube is just an empty space, and there is the anonymously there's nothing. And then the artist is really the most important part of to make the white space the edge and the piece of the work. But instead of the green space, is the sort of situation already I made, just inviting the audience to take part in. Then they will finalize, they will make the artwork the perfect. That's different approach to the space as well, very symbolically. Not white cube, is not green color, green space. That I try to input like the sort of Asian classical approach to the technology itself. How we can use the technology, how we can see the technology itself by using the East Asian, the classical approach. Like, that not the object, it's sort of part of nature as well. How we can make some connections or interaction with this device. How it can be the other part of our nature. Also, AI as well. This is my question always. It's resonating in my mind.
Thank you very much, Jinjoon. It seems to me that technology sort of serves as a mediator between you and the audience. And I kind of wonder, for Professor Xiang Biao, do you also resonate, with like how technology plays a role? For example, in your study of migration, skilled or unskilled workers, and also, how does it concern you, for example, in relation to like the community work, the neighborhood, the nearby, all of those concepts?
Thanks. But at this very moment, the technology is a source of frustration because somehow the connection is not very good. So I couldn't hear very well, but I got the basic ideas, and I'm glad that our conversation is being recorded. So I'll revisit. And regarding the question of technology, yes, I'm very interested in the impacts of technology, because there is a school of thought saying that technology is an extension of our human body. Like the car is just an extension of our legs, and the lift, and then computer is an extension of our fingers and eyes, etc. But of course, Jinjoon's work shows that technology is much more than that. It's not an extension of our body, but it's completely redefine our body. And his work very fruitfully use technology to open up in a way to destabilize ourselves. So this is something actually touched me quite deeply. You record your memory of sound, then hanging in from the ceiling, and then the sound is projected in one direction, and then when the participants walks by, so it will generate small movement of air, which will change the sound. So it's your personal memory and a personal life, which is supposed to be a linear journey. But this linear journey is turned into something is completely immersed in interaction at this moment. So a personal history became it's no longer a story of progression, linear progression, but rather become a swirl. It's an interaction with many people, and it's very dynamic. So this leads me to a new question, which is about related to the notion of cultivation and the subjectivity. Because Jinjoon mentioned in the beginning the literati's understanding of art as an instrument for communication and cultivation. And clearly they have a very specific subject to cultivate, which is the self as a gentleman, a gentleman with a taste, with manners, and of course with moral standing and with deep knowledge, etc. So, and art and communication based on art is to cultivate the self, but through communication. And in your work, there's a very strong sense of cultivation too, as I see. You draw people's attention to small details and urge people to reflect on the self and reflect on the relation of self to the surroundings. So it's all very cultivative. Then I have the question, but you are using the modern technology to open the self up, destabilize the self. Traditionally, cultivation is to stabilize the self, to augment, to develop a clear self. But here, it is a cultivation in your work, but is not coming coherently to a kind of fixed self, right? Then I'm thinking, okay, if we take it as a very kind of postmodern approach to say, oh, there is no such thing as self, everything is a process, everything is, the no linear historical progression, everything is solved in communication. But that doesn't work either in your work, because as you mentioned in the beginning, the reason you became interested in your own memory, in your own childhood experiences, is not because of the experiences per se, but is because the tension between your personal experiences, which may not have a clear direction, which can, we can say it's dissolved every moment in multiple interactions. So this kind of experiences on one hand, and big concepts, big narratives, big ideas on the other hand. In order to have a sense of these big ideas, you need a more or less stable subjecthood. you need a certain kind of coherent mind in order to say, okay, I feel a particular historical event is important, particular big concept is important, because this is really a judgment by a stable subject. So then I just to mention this to say that the tension between a stable subject and a completely open and destabilized subject. How do you see this is a helpful dichotomy to think about your work, or you think I completely misunderstand your thinking?
No, that's very important. Thank you for the questions. Like, yes, I feel that this is not like the postmodernism, the approach to make artwork. Instead, it's more about like opening, is also inviting the importance of individuality itself. The individuals and the audience who has their own personal memories, personal experience, has its own economy, which enable us to make our own world based on our own things. So in this exhibition, it's not like a linear or non-linear, such as it's like some program that is guarding. So now we have to talk about what the garden means. Garden is a very embodied space instructing what the nature or what our world is. So to make the garden in that space, I try to cultivate my own personal experience and also the condition of the space as well, where the participant could take part in to finalize the spatial experience by using their own individual perception. So each individuals will get very different experience in the exhibitions. There is not such a coherent directions which just the people to understand, not such a substantial way to cultivate our own personal things. It's not like that. Just like an invitation, the invited space where the audience can catch up their own things by that spatial experience. For example, the hanging garden, the 12 speakers have each own the sound, which comes from my own memories. The children's laugh, and also the cricket sound, and the wind festival winter, the wind sound, such things. It is related to my own memory about nature or my own personal childhood as well. Sometimes it can be interrupted by the siren sound. Maybe you remember that I got an injury on my left leg, and then such a sound of the emergency ambulance is always resonating in my mind, just interrupting and pausing with me to think continuously. So such a 12 different personal memories are resonating in the space by with the different directional sound speakers. And then the audience can capture a very each their experience will be very different. How it can be started, I'm not sure how they could capture from A to Z, from 1 to 12, and also randomly it can be moved by their own interruption, their engagement by the air movement as well. So this entirely personalized experience, they could get their own things, not mine. They could imagine, they could cultivate their own things from this invitation. And then between 12 different layered spaces, people can tapestry, then they can make the rearrangement to to make their own memory more clearly by the sound, by each sound. For example, when people get that the child is left, definitely they will remind them their own memories about child is left as well. So suddenly it can be interrupted by the amber sound unexpectedly, and then they will doubt about their senses, like they listen this sound from this artwork, or actually in the outside on the London street, there might be very often the sound of the embers as well. So such as things will be very blur, and also between the virtuality and also realities and the personalized memories, and also the public, the collective memory. That things is occurring at the same time simultaneously. Then finally the last thing will be their own the importance about the individual memories and their perceptions. So I feel that everyone has their own appreciation to the artwork, to these exhibitions. So it's very hard to explain with such a coherent conceptual approach. This is just like programmed the space where I invited the audience to make their own personal appreciation with such a trigger point, softly and softly. But it's rooted to my own personal memory, of course. It started from that. It has been generated from my own personal things that it can be, but it must be open to the public, a very open space.
Thank you very much, Jinjoon. That was a fascinating interaction. We've got two questions from the audience members. The first one is addressed to Jinjoon. Thank you, Dr. Lee, for sharing. What about the effect in your relationship with the landscape and the technology? How does your work engage with topics emotionally? I guess previously you touched upon a bit already on landscape and technology, but the second question is kind of related to the emotional engagement with your topic.
Yes, maybe I can say very briefly, let's talk about garden again. Garden is a different culture has their own gardens, like representing their cultural background or historical these resources. The garden is not just the specific experience. It's more like a one experience, a total experience where we can catch something very instantly. And like that, but that the experience in the garden, the physical, the participation to the garden is about our body sense, the listening and singing and touchness, haptics, some sort of things that are surrounded by my own understanding to the garden space. But to think about technology and the landscape and also nature, we have a very, very mixed the experience to see the nature itself. How many times do you visit the mountain or the oceans, or how many times do you visit your friends? Like the Professor Biao mentioned that he just visited his hometown for long the time, the census. Yeah, it's that nowadays with many reasons we are quite disattached, isolated and divided from real nature, especially in the urban landscape, because of many reasons, but especially by technology itself. Instead of going to the mountain, we are able to see the beautiful landscape of mountain by sunrising, by sunset, such things. But just thinking about literature again, they just try to make some painting about the beautiful mountain. The elderly, retired literati try to go there by using their own painting itself, appreciating the only one beautiful flower. They was able to imagine how beautiful the whole mountain was in a summer, in a spring days. Yes, I feel that technology gave us a really huge pleasure to see the essential beauty of the landscape, but at the same time, actually, we have been manipulated by such a fake beautifulness, I feel. So I ask people to get their own time to use their own body senses in a more emotional way, because whole the experience is related to emotional experience as well, I feel. So whenever I see the mountain, the Masan, emotionally, I got some problems because I planted this tree to this mountain. It's such a connection of the emotional experience and also my physical engagement will be will be much different from the technological the experience by using technology itself.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. We have 3 more questions from the audience member. The second one is addressed to Professor Xiang. In the beginning, you talked about memory. It was really intriguing. Can you talk more about it? Is memory merely a thing of the past? That's a very philosophical question.
Memory is not merely a thing of the past. Memory is how you recall things that you perceive to be of the past. So therefore, memory is fundamentally a question of the present, is a now. The memory is always memory of the now, even though it is about the past, seemingly about the past. So now here, I would like to make 2 small points. Number one, and when we have memory at this moment, what we're doing is primarily make a narrative about ourselves by using the past as a material. So very often we will build a tunnel for ourselves. Memory is ordering process, ordering your past experiences in a particular way, and therefore to explain how we have arrived where we are at this moment. So tunnel, A lead to B to C and to now. So it is a one linear tunnel view. I think Jones' work, as I mentioned, is so interesting, precisely broke up such a memory making process, memory making as an ordering process. To the point is, we're talking about East Asia art, and the remembering and disremembering is a huge issue in East Asia. In China, mentioned somewhere else, disremembering is a very important part of life and history. Disremembering is not the same as forgetting. Disremembering is not forgetting. You try not to remember. After trauma, children ask parents what happened before. Parents, of course, remember, and the body remember, even remember, often body remembers all the sufferings, but you suppress the conscious memory. So the disremembering became important, and as a result is trauma. You have a lot of memory, but you can't articulate it. And then trauma will lead to paranoid, etc. And another result of the disremembering is it's erasure of history in our memory, right? Yeah, memory is the same as history. It's erasure history through memory. I just give you a quick example. I'm hometown. I just discovered this time that my cousin, my father's direct brother's son, was 4 years younger than me in a shoe factory when he was 22 years old, when I was studying in college. It got shocking, 22 years old, died in a shoe factory, which, by the way, is not uncommon because the shoe factory was using some highly polluting, extreme toxic material, especially the glue. What is shocking is that I didn't know such a relative, almost the same age, died in a major industry in my hometown. My hometown. And of course, there's a lot of questions why I was not. It is not an accident that I wasn't told, or I was not sensitive enough to ask what happened to these relatives. Nearly 30 years. So now, so that was not forgetting, that was collective remembering. I must say the family tried to dismember that kind of accident. And now sitting here in China, and huge collective disremembering like this happening because my hometown celebrated its economic success and etc. And very few people mentioned how many people died due to the toxic material in the shoemaking factory. Very few, no data available. And there's all kinds of data available about the GDP growth and the success of the industry and export set. So this remembering then makes such a kind of rediscovery very important part of a mission of East Asian citizens, I would say, especially citizens in China. Sorry, I'm just immediately related to this particular exhibition, but I also somehow it related in the memory is stirred in the hanging garden. You have a feeling that memory, of course, is not static; it's constantly in interaction, constantly motion, and it's being stirred up. Probably we should do some conscious work to stop our memory, therefore to discover what we have disremembered, and therefore to read the history, or put in a different way, to rescue history from our memory, to paraphrase Sarah's work, rescue history from the nation. Probably we should do history from our own memory.
Thank you very much, Professor Xiang. That was incredible. Just a quick note, I think due to reception in Wenzhou, where Professor Xiang is, maybe in between we're losing a few words, but our team later with the recording, we can try to subtitle it so the audience can, kind of, reflect back on the content, because, that was a really great connection Professor Xiang just made for us. Because of time, we'll be able to ask the two remaining questions. The one question is to Jinjoon. So thank you for the wonderful presentation. I'm very interested in learning about the site-specific installation, marbling window, both visual and sonic aspects of it. Could you please talk more about it?
Well, yeah, thank you for not to miss that the mumbling windows work. Yeah, we technically I installed to one camera sensors on the window of the space. The KAIST UK is heading for the straight the way. So by using the camera sensor, we read the small movement of the street, like the car and also walking people, and the movement of the trees, branch as well by wind. certain things had been recorded and also imprinted to the sound by the camera senses. And then I installed the resonating speaker on the window itself. It actually enables the window can be like a speaker itself. So by crossing to the corridor, the audience can listen to the sound from the window, the mumbling. With this notice, the audience can see the landscape through the green colored in the window as well. I feel that such experience will make people to see the landscape quite differently, and also they could catch some weird sound from the outside. And after this visiting, there's a lot of my friends actually mentioned that when just came back outside from the green colored one, they noticed that white color can not be seen the white itself. It becomes like a sort of red color or pink color because of effect of the eye sight by the green itself. And then for a while, they just saw that the urban landscape, the streetcars and people in a slightly different way. They noticed that it's not the same after visiting the space. They explained that such a change in the experience by visiting this experience, this exhibition. I think about using the sonic effect of the landscape. It is entirely connected to our perception, to our scape as well. But that is not always the inactively linked with the realities. The sound is more complicating than the visualities. It's not easy to catch up the different sound, the multiple sound at the same time. We only can hear the one sound or two or three sounds by the capability of the brain, and so I just make some down to our body sense by that such this installation. Yeah, thank you for not to miss that the installation of the work.
Thank you, Jinjoon. So actually, you already briefly mentioned about the color green, which is what the next question is about. You mentioned that you extracted the color green from the artwork so that we can have our own exploration. However, the main color of the exhibition is the green throughout. What is your purpose with this seemingly contradiction?
Well, yeah, thank you, Daphne. Let's think about green. Green, sometimes green represent nature, but actually green is not always not linked with the nature itself. Green is quite like a conceptual approach to understand the nature. So we have to question to what the green means. It's not, green has also has a different layers as well. And by extracting the green color to the mountain, and also it has been affected by the colors in the space, the green tinted space. So in between the extracted the green colored the painting, a wall carpet, and also the atmosphere, the space is entirely tinted by green. In between there, actually audience were located to define whether you are belong to this one or that one. So by using technology, you could explore my own memories, dark the wall carpet, and also the carpet, the black one, is entirely affected by the green tinted color as well. So I just feel that in between there, we just can make a question what actually green is. It's not like contradictory questions. It's just a suggestion. The green is not just making the space as a nature at all. Green is a more conceptual approach to what the green is and what the nature is.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jinjoon. Then that leads to our very last question from the audience member. Thank you everyone for this wonderful discussion. The artworks included in the exhibition indeed activate different senses of the audiences. So I'm wondering why Dr. Lee specifically named the exhibition Audible Garden, how sound and our hearing manifest to him uniquely under such context and for such content. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, actually, if you go to the exhibitions, you could hear some sound. As I mentioned at the first time, you could confront the wall painting at first while stepping up to the stairs, and you could see that wall painting at first. Then somebody who knows the note, the chords, and also very familiar to the sound, the score, definitely can recognize that the wall painting is not just painting, it's not of the art, it's entirely some chord can be heard. So physically there is some sound, but from the distance, while you're watching, you are seeing, confronting the wall painting, you could imagine some sound as well. I just talked with many sound artists who has ability to imagine, to listen some sound, not just using the musical instrument, but just singing some chord. So, for example, one composer, Moria Aricone, the very famous late musician, has just his own composing, not listening any sound, not playing any piano instrument, just making some chords on his note. He is able to listen. He is able to hear some sound. So such a thing is happening in my artwork while you're singing the first wall painting. At the same time, actually, there are so many different sounds resonating in my artwork. So somebody asked me, it's quite sometimes interrupting to focus on specific artwork by the complicating sound. While I was seeing the manufactured nature, I was able to listen the hanging garden sound at the same time. So which one I should focus on? They many times ask me about it. But what I can say is no, this is not like the interrupting. This is entirely orchestration. Very softly, very delicately, I made some volumes up and down and installed some sound resources in a very subtle ways. So this is orchestration. While you are you are getting experience in the artwork, the exhibition space, from the starting point and to the end, you are entirely deliberated to part in that orchestration itself. If you can make some murmuring with your friends, the tapping and the walking, that sound is also part of that exhibition. So this is orchestration, it's not interrupting. So in a garden space, you could imagine some sound, and also you could make some your sound as well. This is called audible garden.
Thank you very much for a very comprehensive explanation. So I suppose for our audience who is able to visit Jinjoon's solo exhibition at KCC UK in London, there's still a few days to catch that. Otherwise, if you come through Manchester, we'll have a special display of Jinjoon's artwork as well. That will, we have decided also to extend the display until the end of November. So there will be a chance to see it in Manchester in person as well. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us from wherever you are. We hope you have enjoyed today's conversation and the talk as much as we did. And a very warm thank you to our wonderful speakers, Jinjoon and Biao, as well as KCC UK for supporting this event generously. As I mentioned, if you're in London, do check out Jinjoon's exhibition at KCC UK. And if you're in Manchester, visit us at EC Contemporary in the Northern Quarter to see Jinjoon's special artwork display of manufactured nature in our communal project space. We have lots of new programs coming up as well. So check out on our website, sign up to our newsletter, and also just stay in touch with us through our multiple social media channels. And if you have enjoyed today's conversation, if you have any further questions, feel free to email us at hello@eccontemporary.org. We'll be very happy to forward your questions to our speakers. So, so thank you again, Jinjoon and Professor Xiang, for this wonderful conversation.
Well, thank you very much. And also, I'm very sorry to the loss of your cousin, the Biao. And I'm really concerned about the memories, the missing point, how we have been entirely affected by some outside the big temas in many ways. And also, our life is always starting from the first step in front of our body itself, is where I am located in. But very often we lose how important it is. My family, my friends, and my own site, such a things is an integral part of our making our life. And also, I'm questioning how we can see our world, this entirely tech-centered world. That's such a utopian vision of the Southeast Asian is the possible way to overcome the tech-centered world. I feel as an artist, I want to challenge it to make such a different perspectives to how important our individuality is. I want to say about it. Thank you for your participation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, meet again sometime in person.
Yeah, let's see again soon. Yeah.
Okay.
In December, I will be back to UK, so I will keep in touch.
Yeah.